The phones are hot, I think is fair to say. The agents are very active.
He does definitely want to stay in the Premier League. He's already said no to Napoli and AC Milan.
Nicolas Jackson doesn't want to be third choice at Chelsea.
Right.
We're making an assumption that he'll be third choice at Chelsea, and probably so is he.
Hello and welcome to Transfers Exposed. I'm Pugh. That over there is the Sun's Deputy Head of Sport, Dean Scoggins. And this is your exclusive press pass to the hottest transfer stories direct from the Sun Sport news desk. And we are with you every Tuesday and Thursday until the transfer window slams shut, as it always does on September the 1st. Dino, finally, as we predicted, the wheels turning, the cogs are in play at Manchester United. Loads to cover. Only one place to start, though. The story on the back page of The Sun this morning is, of course, Bryan Mbeumo signing for £71 million, which we will get onto in a minute. But the more interesting one, I think, particularly for Chelsea fans as well as United fans, is over here. £80 million for Devils to nick him. Nicolas Jackson is open to joining Manchester United, but Chelsea want a huge £80 million. Now, loads to cover on this. Just quickly, we're going to do Nicolas Jackson, a brief bit on Alejandro Garnacho and where he might end up, and of course Marcus Rashford, an update on his move to Barcelona and why it might not be as crystal clear and clear cut as people think. And then we'll go into some anger from Brentford and a little bit of tete-a-tete between Brentford and Manchester United after Mbeumo made that move. Nicolas Jackson, first of all, we covered it on Transfers Exposed last week. One of the first to the stories, as we often are at Sun Sport. And the suggestion was very much at the time that, look, you know, he's a player that Manchester United might like. He might fit into the system. He's going to be third choice probably at Chelsea. Enzo Maresca still likes him, but Jackson is aware with the arrival of Liam Delap and João Pedro that he is number 3 in that pecking order, which he's not particularly happy about. Just first of all, though, last week the chat was that Chelsea want £100 million. That now, after a little bit of bulking in the market, shall we say, has been revised somewhat.
Yeah, I think that the phones are hot. I think is fair to say. The agents are very active.
Yeah.
Not just Nicolas Jackson's agent, I hasten to add, lots and lots of agents. And now the money's starting to circulate around the market, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty clear that Nicolas Jackson doesn't want to be third choice at Chelsea.
Right.
We're making an assumption that he'll be third choice at Chelsea, and probably so is he. So they've done the rounds, and nobody's going to pay $100 million. So hence the revised estimate on his.
Oh, we were only joking. Actually, maybe 80 will do it after all.
If you look at what's happened with Ekitike, Gyökeres, and Jackson scored good goals in the Premier League last year, good performances. So he is around that mark as well.
Contract till 2033. Excuse me.
So exactly. So it's not like a contract you can buy out cheaply,
no,
is
quite,
it?
Quite,
you look at it that way, and £80 million feels like a more more appropriate amount. Yeah. Look, Manchester United and our sources at Man United are sort of telling us that they haven't made an approach for him yet.
Okay.
He is one of the strikers on their potential list.
Yeah. Now that's interesting because we were having a brief chat before this, right? And I was, well, frankly, horrified, Horrified I was about the line in the piece this morning. Jack Rosser, by the way, writing on the back page across all things Chelsea this season. Now, the line that sort of infuriated me, surprised me, whatever it was so much. I wasn't that cross about it, if I'm honest.
Well, you've seen it.
Yeah. But was United are also keen on Benjamin Sesko, RB Leipzig, of course, but are yet to decide which deal to pursue. Now, I came blustering into this morning going, Dino, it's July the 22nd. They're heading off to America for their pre-season tour. How on earth are Manchester United still undecided about which striker they're going to pursue? And then you calmed me down a bit.
Yeah, there's a long way to go in the window. Yeah, they've got to sell somebody first. They're in this position where they've got to shift a few players. Obviously, the Rashford bit, which we'll get onto, and Garnacho as well.
But what's the sense from United then?
The sense from United is they have two strikers that they, Højlund and Xerxes.
Yep.
They've bolstered their front line already. Cunha could play up the middle. He can play in either of those two number 10 positions. Yep. And Mbeumo will come on to, obviously, through the door as well. So they're a little more relaxed than they were a couple of weeks ago, which is understandable. Look, I think if you ask most Man United fans and most people at Manchester United, they probably prefer Nicolas Jackson or Benjamin Sesko to Rasmus Højlund.
Or Joshua Zirkzee.
Yeah, I mean, Zirkzee is a slightly different player to those two, but I would imagine that they'd like to have Zirkzee plus Jackson or Sesko to be in that position where they can move things around up front. But they can't just, under this new regime and with their money constraints, and they're not in Europe, start throwing around £80 million for strikers until they've sold one or at least moved another couple of players on. So they're still in the market.
Yeah.
They're not finished. But that will
What will
depend.
make their mind up then?
Well, I think what will make their mind up is if they can get Højlund out of the door for either a loan to buy or for a significant amount of money, sort of £50 million ish, and then if they can get somewhere between 40 and 60 for Garnacho, that means they've brought in 2 forwards, they've moved out 2 forwards, and then they can go on and spend some more money, which is their transfer budget for the summer. So look, Sesko is obviously looking for a move.
Yeah, of course.
Involved. Ekitike's gone to Liverpool.
Yeah.
So Nicolas Jackson, Sesko are 2 high-profile strikers in the market. We've already mentioned on previous shows about the freebies who are available, the Calvert-Lewins and Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson.
And
Jamie Vardy.
Jamie Vardy. And, look, Aston Villa as well. Ollie Watkins is never far from anybody's list as well. Yep. So United have these list of players who they know they can go in for. They're fully aware of what they need to pay and what the wages will be. And, as and when they move a couple of players on, they'll start moving. But look, the transfer window runs to the end of August, so don't get too impatient.
September the 1st, it slams shut, do you remember? So just worth noting, there's no club-to-club negotiations yet. United haven't made an approach for Jackson or anything like that. He does definitely want to stay in the Premier League. He's already said no to Napoli and AC Milan, so he's keen to stay in England. I think he knows Maresca does like him a lot, doesn't he?
Absolutely,
and he would prefer him to stay.
Maresca would like 3 strikers, but can Chelsea also? I know Chelsea are throwing money around here, left, right, and centre as they normally do, but Chelsea have to be aware of ins and outs as well. So if you've got 3, top level strikers in, you're talking about 3 strikers with a combined value of £250 million, then they need to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let's move on then, Dino, to the outgoings that and we've been saying it's for a while now. It all seemed like a bit of a stalemate, particularly around the Mbeumo one, where it was like that first domino just needs to go and then the cards will cascade. I don't know why I switched from dominoes to cards in that analogy there, but
they both fall over.
They do, yeah. They've both got numbers and little shapes on them, haven't they? Alejandro Garnacho. Now, this is a story. We know that Aston Villa like the look of him. Chelsea continues to have an interest in Garnacho. United, ideally, and the line, understandably, out of United is very much, look, this is how long he's got left on his contract. This is how old he is, etc., etc., etc. So we value him at £60 million. So, okay, well, as always, the value of a player is based on what clubs are willing to pay rather than what you decide that he should, rather than what price tag you've slapped on him.
Yes.
But the reality of it is, if there was £40 million on the table, given that it's pure profit from a PSR point of view, particularly the longer the window rumbles on, that they would take it pretty much.
Yeah, I think 40 million with some add-ons is around about where they're at, and it's we talked about the Sancho side of things, Garnacho as well. We mentioned on previous shows. Chelsea retain that interest as they continue to recycle wide players as they do.
Yeah.
We know the players they've bought in already, including Jamie Gittins, but with Madueke going, they're probably looking at another one to come in. We'd expect João Felix and Christopher Nkunku to leave.
Yeah.
So therefore, and look, Garnacho's a versatile forward as well, can play both sides.
Yep.
And I'd like to see him play number 10 in a Chelsea formation.
I honestly thought you were going to say wing back then.
No. We'll play wing back for United. We keep saying that, but yeah. He's so look, yeah. What he's valued, Manchester United are a different kettle of fish, aren't they? A completely different kettle of fish to all other clubs.
Yeah.
What you are valued by Manchester United is not what you are valued by any other club. Just in that Manchester United tax bracket, as it seems to be. So everybody knows he's surplus to requirements, to use that old-fashioned journalistic phrase, and so therefore he is not worth what he's worth on their balance sheet.
Quite.
And so I expect if Chelsea and Man United do open the dialogue over Jackson, would it be completely out of the realms for Manchester United to pay Chelsea 30 to 40 million pounds? And, as part of that Garnacho goes the other way. They would never do it as a swap deal.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you.
we need to be clear on that, because he is a clear profit on the balance sheet. But
it may be two separate transfers for a very similar amount of money.
Absolutely.
But they would be
I owe you a tenner, you give me a tenner, I get all that sort of stuff.
I think you do owe me a tenner, actually.
Yeah, probably do.
Marcus Rashford, then. Let's move on to this one. Dino, interesting one. He's closing in on a loan deal to Barcelona. They have agreed, unbelievably. Now, this one, we've been speaking about this time and time again.
Staggers me, this one. Still staggers me. Yeah.
So the latest story, Barcelona they will be paying Marcus Rashford's full wages, around £280,000 a week in basic salary, anywhere between 320 to 350 once all add-ons are added on. If he hits them all, he'll have to have some season to clear 350 grand a week for the entirety of the season. There's a £26 million option to buy in the deal. He was in Barcelona for a medical on Monday, but they may still struggle to register him given Barcelona's financial nightmares that they've had before with Dani Olmo and Frenkie de Jong. Now, before we move on to that part of it, Dino, I want to talk firstly about Nico Williams, who's just signed a 10-year deal at Athletic Bilbao, and how it was actually that decision and that move which has changed the Rashford situation from us sitting in this studio and journalists, reporters, radio hosts up and down the land in recent weeks just saying, I don't know what's going to happen to Rashford. Barcelona have got other targets. Barcelona basically, when they were prioritising Williams, they couldn't afford to do both. No. Now, just talk to me, start wherever you like really, but just talk to me around this and what's happened basically in quite a short space of time from, I don't know what's going to happen to Rashford, this one's going to rumble on, I don't think the Barcelona one's on, to, hang on a minute, he's on a private jet out to Barcelona.
Yeah, and you mentioned cards there, playing cards on his private jet on his Instagram to make sure everybody knows he was on his way there, which is interesting as well. But yeah, so it all started when basically we got wind that Arsenal weren't going to get Nico Williams. So it then becomes okay, is he staying then? But no, then it becomes he's going to Barcelona. So makes sense, right? One of the best wingers in La Liga, in Europe the last season.
Totally.
Hansi Flick, absolutely all out for a pacey winger. They are not going to be able to afford him and Marcus Rashford the wages, never mind
they
the
never
transfer
were,
fee.
were
Never
they?
were going to be able to. And then it got to a point where Athletic Bilbao, obviously with their their youth system, the way they breed their own players and keep their own players, pay very, very good wages because they don't spend very much on transfer fees. So it gets to the point where this deal to get Nico Williams out of Athletic Bilbao, is just too large for Barcelona and too much of a risk for them in the current market. So, Nico Williams ends up staying, signs a 10-year deal. Marcus Rashford comes back to the table. Yeah. And, of course, Man United, what great news for them. Take him again, option to buy at the end of the season. Now, let's say he does have, from what Barcelona fans would probably call an average season, where he gets 10 to 15 goals, Barcelona win the league, and, he gets a few assists as well. Yep. I think we'd call that an absolutely fantastic season. He would stay, 26 million quid. Man United have got him off their books. Everybody wins. So I do find it amazing that after a loan deal at Aston Villa and the last 2 years that he's had at Manchester United, that he's going to end up on the left wing for Barcelona. Yeah. Dave Kidd writes a brilliant column this morning, both in the paper, our chief sports correspondent, and you can read that online as well, about the pressure that goes with playing at a club like Barcelona. Gary Lineker,
greater than Man United?
I think so. Yeah, I think in Man United, in the Premier League, we live in this bubble where we think the Premier League is greater than everything in the world. It's great to watch. It's better to watch, And look, he's under pressure at Man United, yes, because he's a youth product.
Yeah.
But he was protected by the Stretford End for a long time. And that's good. That's not a criticism.
Yeah.
The home fans gave him a break. They weren't.
It still goes on.
It does.
It still goes on. Yeah.
And I don't think that a player of his calibre, of his value, of his ability, would have had as much patience as that if he wasn't a homegrown talent.
If he'd been a signing.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I love it. I love the fact that the Man United fans have supported him in that way. England fans as well have stayed with him through... I mean, weren't we at Wembley together when we watched that? I mean, it was one of the worst performances in an England shirt. It was diabolical.
Malta?
He barely ran. Yeah, Malta, I think it was. He barely ran. And I was expecting the sort of whole left side of Wembley to be on his case. And in the end, I think it was me who shouted at him first. How about you make a run, Marcus, or something like that. But so I do think he got a lot of, and look, he's had a lot go on. It is hard to come through the ranks at a club like Man United, but there's nowhere to hide in the new camp, or it won't be the new camp to begin with. But there's nowhere to hide at Barcelona. Absolutely, he's going to be right front and centre, and he's got Lamine Yamal, who's playing on the other wing. And if he's not the same level, well, he won't be the same level as Lamine Yamal, I'll give him a break, but if he's not pulling his weight and being right in the mix, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, and those guys, they are going to get on him. Never mind the fans, they are going to get on him. So I don't think he's gone there for an easy ride, put it that way. And look, fair play to him. Ambition. Wants to play for England again. And he's joined one of the biggest clubs in the world. So all eyes on Marcus.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last week, I think we used the word denial, or I certainly did, about him saying, I really want to go and play for Barcelona after not exactly ripping trees up at Aston Villa. Pressure on, but fair play. And I do hope I'm proved wrong. Just worth one interesting thing. Nico Williams, it sounds, I don't put it this way, I don't think he's going to be at Athletic Bilbao for 10 years. It's
a lovely place, Bilbao.
It is nice. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. There's a £90 million release clause that's been inserted into that deal, an increase of around 50% from his previous one, which was around the £60-65 million mark, and quite a few suggestions saying that it's that registration issue that made Williams back out of that Barcelona deal. He didn't fancy going through all that rigmarole. So watch this space still, because Rashford, that sounds like a good deal. Not all hurdles necessarily jumped. Very quickly, Dino, just to wrap it up, Man United signed Mbeumo for £71 million. Suggestions, though, that there's a little bit of ag between the two clubs and they didn't like how it all went round. Basically, Brentford... the suggestion being that Brentford had told Mbeumo to lower his wage demands to enable United to cough up a higher fee of around £77 million, or £6 million more than they've initially agreed on. Brentford, though, insist that was just a polite suggestion to Mbeumo during a time in which United were refusing to increase their offer from 65, which was before they added on the extra 6 and they met in the middle. I quite enjoyed this story. Again, Martin Lipton writes from Chicago.
And Martin Lipton, Martin Blackburn, Jack Rosser, Charlie Wyatt have all been right at the front of this story all summer. So, hats off to them. It's been great for Sunsport, this Mbeumo stuff, right from the beginning at, Tottenham links, Tom Barkley involved as well. Really good team effort from everyone. And I think, to quote what we said on the show last week or the week before, you pay your money, you get your choice, right? So eventually Man United got to a point of saying, well, we'll pay 65 plus 6.
Yeah.
We knew that 65 was the line in the sand from Brentford. There was no shifting from that. 65 plus the add-ons. And Mbeumo gets his money and you get through. Now, all of this that comes afterwards is just posturing and PR, if you ask me.
What's the point of doing it now? Because United said, they really wanted to sell him to Newcastle and Spurs more than us.
Yeah.
It's just, you've done it. It's just petulance now,
the easy we mentioned that as well. The easy thing with Tottenham and Newcastle is that you add the Champions League on. So immediately the add-ons are paid because they're in the Champions League. So all of those elite performance bonuses that go on are added already because he's going to play in the Champions League in 3 weeks' time. Whereas, of course, Brentford wanted 65 plus add-ons, and the add-ons that go with Champions League football, if he'd gone to one of those two, they would have got straight away. With Man United, they might have to wait 12 months or more.